Hey, my name is Kendra. I am a learning specialist, a multi-sensory learning specialist, and I specialize in helping kids read and adults. So, does your child struggle to read? And why is your school not helping you? Do you ever feel like that? Like your school is not helping you? You've gone to the teachers, you've gone to administration. Maybe your child is in some type of special education or they have an IEP, individualized educational plan, but you're still not seeing the results that you would like to see in your kids. Why is that? Well, today we're going to talk about it. I can give you a couple of reasons why. So, like I said, I am Kendra, and I am a certified special education teacher. I taught in the school system, in the public school system, for over 7 years, and I also taught as a preschool teacher, early learning Head Start programs, for about 10 years before I came into the public school system. And I can tell you, transitioning from early learning into public school, that was definitely a transition. It was a change. It was a difference. And what I can say is that in early learning, they really focus on the whole child, especially Head Start. They have mental health curriculum that's within they have mental health that is within the curriculum. And this is daily. They have health checks. They talked about brushing their teeth and good hygiene. They also focus on science, of course, but they focus on reading and literacy skills. And the way that they do the reading is it's play-based, but it's just an overall program. Versus when you get into the public school, it's pretty much, you have to do what the curriculum tells you to do. And this is exactly why I chose to teach special education, because all kids don't learn the same. All kids don't learn at the same pace. So what you have some kids that are way up here, they've already mastered what's the objective or the goal. And then you have kids who are on the other spectrum and they're just really struggling. And you may even see that some of those kids, they get pushed to the next level, the next grade level, because I can't blame the teacher. Like I said, I worked in public school system. So what happens there is that you have administrators and then you have administrators over the administrators telling them, hey, you have to hit this, this, and this, and you have to do this by the end of the school year. So they really don't have time to slow down. And even I taught I taught first grade, 1 year. I taught it 1 year. That was more than enough for me. But I know that in that 1 year that I taught, it wasn't special education, it was general education. But yet I had a lot of kids in my classroom who they hadn't been diagnosed yet. So either they were on the spectrum, autism spectrum, or maybe they were had some type of learning disability. And because I worked in special education prior to that, a couple of years, I could recognize that. I'm like, these kids, they have, special needs. So I could not teach that class like a regular class. My administrator was not too happy about that, but I just couldn't do it. And this is one of the reasons why your kid may be struggling if they're struggling to read, because that teacher only has so much time. She only has so much time in a day. And even sometimes that kid may get pulled for reading group, a small reading group, an intervention group. But the problem with that is that, they're getting pulled from maybe specials like PE or art class. And they really like those classes. So they don't really want to be there, doing these interventions whenever they would prefer to be in their specials class. That's part of the problem. So maybe that kid's motivation is not there, or maybe they are distracted. And then maybe you have before school kids, that's a struggle sometimes just to get the kids out the door and get them to school on time, let alone early and before school. And then maybe you have after school. So if that parent works, maybe that child has to go to some type of after school care and the parent can't come pick the kid up, on time or because they're working. So that is the problem. Now, when it comes to children who are really struggling and really behind on reading, what I found the best thing is one-to-one. The best way that they're going to catch up or get to where they need to be, or even build on those foundational skills, is to have that one-on-one support from a teacher. It's just very hard, even when you have a small group. I've done that before as a teacher. I had a small group, like 5 kids. That's not really small group, no more than 3. But within that small group, you still have kids who are on different levels. You may have one kid who's, they can read a little bit faster than the other kids, or maybe their comprehension is better than the other kids. So then what you have there, even within that group, it still has the dynamics of the larger classroom size. So that kid doesn't get that one-on-one support in that area that they need to build on so that they can build those foundational skills. So that is probably why, if your child is in, if they're receiving some type of intervention, and even with that intervention may just be 2 or 3 times a week. It may not even be every day that student is receiving intervention. So that's not really enough. That's not what they need when it's not that individualized one-to-one support. So yeah, if your child is struggling and you have tried the school system and they're in the school system, or maybe you've even pulled your kids out because you're like, hey, this is not working. Maybe I can homeschool them better, but yet you're struggling to teach them. You're struggling with homeschool. If that is where you're at right now, then I would love to help you. Being that I am a certified special education teacher, I'm also certified in general education from early childhood to 6th grade. And I have I've taught the foundational skills. I taught the foundational skills of reading and early literacy skills whenever I was in the early childhood programs teaching in early childhood. But it also carried over to special education. Even when I taught elementary, middle school, and high school, I still had to work with kids who were maybe on a no higher than probably a 3rd grade reading level. So I really did the same thing that I did when I was in early childhood. I focused on the assessment to tell me, where is that student? Where are they at? Because just because a child is struggling, it doesn't mean that they don't have some skills that they can work on, that they can build on. So first we start with those skills, build up the confidence, because when they know that they're behind, or when they know that they're struggling, their self-esteem just, goes down, down, down. And especially when they're trying so hard and yet they still feel like they just can't get it. I've seen how that just really kills their self-esteem. But I work on building their self-esteem, and the way I do that, I work on skills that they know. We have to have some type of, reward for them to continue, because if they just continue to struggle and they can't, they have trouble and they can't get any better, then what is the motivation? So that's what I like to do. I like to work with kids to build their confidence, build their self-esteem, and then we work on those foundational skills, and I do an assessment with each and every one of my students that I work with, my tutoring students. And I say tutoring because that's what people are familiar with, but it's more so intervention. I'm doing reading intervention with these kids. So in order to do reading intervention, I have to start with the data. I have to start with a formal assessment to let me know where they're at, and then that will help me to build on their skills. So again, if your child is struggling, I would love to help them. Just go ahead and either click the link in the bio, or you can send me a message, or my website is www.victorycreativelearning.com. You can email me, info@victorycreativelearning.com. If your child is struggling, maybe they have some type of learning disability, maybe they've been diagnosed with dyslexia, or some type of learning developmental delays. I would love to help your child. So go ahead and reach out and we'll talk and see where they're at, and I'll let you know how I can try to help them.